Hey y'all, so I wanted to talk about The Bridge Curse 2, a sequel to The Bridge Curse Road to Salvation, which is a horror game that came out a few years ago. I never got to play that, but after playing this game, I kind of want to go back and play the original. This game is about 4-ish hours long or so. It's split into chapters, and each chapter you play a different character, but each chapter kind of connects and interweaves together. This game mostly takes place in one location, which is at a school that's haunted. And you're trying to figure out like the reason why and who and what and where and when. And you find out all that information as you're playing through the game. And the game kind of chooses the order in which character you play. There's no real choice there for that, but that was fine with it. I really had a good time with it. There's some stealth, but not a lot, which you all know I'm not a huge stealth person, so I appreciated that. There's some puzzle elements, and most of the puzzles I was able to figure out on my own. There was one where I kind of got by randomly guessing on the puzzle. So again, with puzzles, it depends on who you are as a person, whether it clicks right away or not. But still, I got it and got my way through. This game, it takes place in one location, which is a school that's haunted. You're trying to figure out who, where, when, why, and how this is all happening, and you learn it as you go. Each chapter, because the game is like 4-ish hours, maybe a little bit longer, each chapter is about an hour or so. And what I appreciated as each chapter did feel different, even though you might be revisiting the same spots or see the same characters again, the way the game is played is slightly different. One's more of just like the narrative element, one's slightly more stealth, one's more puzzle based, you know, and it was cool to have those elements to keep it varied. And as you go through the game, there's collectibles. Not a whole lot. You collect the little dolls and things, and then there's a special little character that you want to be your best friend that you see a couple times throughout the game, and if you give this special character one of these collectibles, you might get something in return. And it's always nice to see this. I wish I saw this character a little bit more, but I digress. It was cool to have this little character buddy in there that's my new best friend. So, as you're going through the game, it seems like it hints to maybe something that happened in the first game, but you could totally play this not playing the first game, not knowing anything that happened, enjoy the experience, because it is its own thing from start to finish. The graphics were pretty decent. They're necessarily the best, but it did its job. It set the atmosphere and the tone. It's creepy, it's weird, and I totally vibe with it. Just being able to walk around and take in the scenery, take in the narrative story. Now, as far as like the negatives go, I would say the voice acting is interesting. So it is like a Japanese-based game. All the stuff's written in Japanese in the game, and then sometimes they'll have little signs that'll translate in English on what it's actually saying. But the voiceover is in English, and I thought that was interesting there, and I didn't see an option, at least when I played it, to switch it over to Japanese. I assumed the game was originally done Japanese and then they got English voiceover later, but with what I had, I only had the English voiceover. And you know, the voiceover wasn't necessarily the best, but it worked. You know, some of the lines were delivered a little bit too tongue-in-cheek or a little bit too cheesy. With exception for one character who's like the comedic B character, it worked pretty well, and it made the character pretty likable in that sense. But just know that, like, the voiceover is like okay, and it's a little silly, but you're still invested in the characters. You still want to know what happened, and it's just there's enough there to kind of get used to it and put up with it as you're playing the game. The other main negative I have is there's the element of, like, there is a cell phone in the game. I know even on the first game, like, the cover art is a cell phone, so I imagine that's an important part of the first game. In this game, it exists, but you don't really do anything with it. There's a moment or two where the phone gets used in the story, or you have to find it, but practically for gameplay purposes, it doesn't really serve any purpose. Each character has their own phone, and all you do with it is just listen to voicemails that were left to get some backstory and read some text to get some backstory. But that's it. That's all you get from it. So, like, even on one of the story missions, I almost forgot that I had a phone until like 3/4 of the way through just to check it. and it made it a little awkward, but you just check it once and then that's it. There's really no use for it. You don't take like photos or anything like that. It's just kind of there. And I wish that they did more with that or just took it out completely with having to do not all that much stuff. Everything else was pretty solid. You know, it delivered on atmosphere and everything. The map was nice. It gave a Resident Evil style map, although I felt like you didn't really need the map. But it was nice that it was there to kind of show where each location was. But overall, I didn't really ever look at the map all that much just because the game is sort of linear and carrying you through what space, like what area you can access when. Sometimes stuff is blocked off and then gets opened up later in the story. So it's cool to see the map to get the layout and everything, but I wasn't like too confused onto where to go and what to do, which sometimes can be a thing, especially with the older survival games. So I appreciate that it was like kind of a little easier for me, and I was able to figure most things out on my own without feeling like too much of a knucklehead, as if, you know, I would feel that way playing older survival games. But I would recommend people definitely check this out. It's a nice short experience. Don't sleep on this one. I really want to go back and play the first one and see how that goes. But I feel like this is a game that might get clocked in under the radar, and it shouldn't. It's a nice, solid horror experience. It's good to play in multiple selections if you want because of the chapter and character split. You can play over the course of 4 nights, play a little bit at a time, and you'll probably get the best experience out of it. There was a couple moments where I did feel like freaked out, like uncomfortable, and yeah, I had a great time with it. But yeah, make sure to check out the Bridge Curse 2 for sure. It's worth your time.